There are medical doctors that I think I mentioned before,
Yes, Don.
whom I know personally, and they say that 95% of their patients have physical ills that are brought on by mental conditions. Even though they may be real physical ills, they're not saying that the ills are not real.
No, they're real,
But
Don.
they're brought on by tensions, by the fact that the women who come in are having difficulty with their husbands, or the men are having difficulty with their wives, or with business, or with relatives, or whatever.
Right, Don.
Yeah. Now, you talked about the financial dimension here in this
Right,
list
Don.
of items that we must overcome and straighten out in order to make our lives tranquil, happy, and physically free of mentally caused illnesses.
Right, Don. Well, we found out as I began to work with the physical man, and as I began to bring about a change in his body, I found that he would come back, though, a few days later, a few weeks later, a few months later, with another illness. And until we got the spiritual dimension balanced and the physical, we were not making the headway that I wanted to make, or I felt I should make, in the mental dimension.
Yeah.
And then I began to realize that if man is not paying his bills, that is a tremendous stress. In fact, a doctor in England recently ran a survey on heart attacks and found that most of the men who had had heart attacks had a financial problem. We also have done research, and most of the divorces start with lack of money. Now, people can kid me when they say, well, Doc, I'm all right spiritually. You know, I believe in God and all of these things. And mentally, I have a good mind. And physically, I'm not very sick. And socially, I get along with everybody. But when it comes to dollars and cents, and you put it down on black and white, either you're making it or you're not. You can be making a lot of money, but if you're not paying all of your bills, and if you're not putting a little aside, then you're out of balance. And we found that this is one of the dimensions that's mostly out of balance and causes all the other dimensions to get out of balance. So we really emphasize in our work, in our symposium, that the balance, financial balance, must be there.
How do you propose that this be done? Let's assume that somebody is behind in their bills, has no savings, and their income is relatively modest.
Well, the first thing that we do is have them change their attitude about that modest income. Most of them are angry with their boss or their job or cussing their job out instead of changing their attitude about it. And the moment we change our attitude, then the chemistry begins to flow to help us bring about a balance. For instance, some of the cases, I can just give you examples that come to my mind. If a wife gets mad at a husband, maybe he went on a fishing trip. She goes out and buys $3,000 or $4,000 worth of furniture and hawks him in for another 2 or 3 years of bills and adds to the stress of the income. And a lot of men, to get even with their wives, well, they'll go out and hang it on every night or every other night, spend $40 or $50 at the bar, which is their business, but it still affects their family. It affects the total picture of the family unit. And so this is where the change comes, is learning to appreciate your job first. The biggest factor in bringing about a balance in finances, to me, has been appreciation.
So it doesn't matter how much you make in terms of the figure, you're saying.
Right.
But it matters how you consider that amount and then how you use it.
How you use it. For instance, a fellow that I know that came to our symposium about 2 years ago made $1 million that year, but still was $300,000 in the hole. And he finally had to declare bankrupt, and he went to a modest college, started teaching at $25,000 a year, which was unbelievable for him, having come from, you know,
Yes.
$1 million income in real estate. And with that $25,000 income, he was able to have money in the bank in savings because he changed his attitude. He began to use his money the way that was best for the whole family. Buying the family everything they want isn't always the best things if you're going and hawk for it.
The practical aspect of your approach really impresses me. Sometimes people like yourself come on the air on programs like this one.
Yes, sir.
And they are far out. They are, quote, kooks.
Right.
Or they're trying to be evangelists and selling God.
Surely.
You are not doing that specifically.
No, we're selling personal happiness. I feel that the God-given right of every American, of every human being, is to be happy and to have abundance. We just ran a class 9 months ago for the state of New Mexico on welfare recipients.
Mm-hmm.
By these, I mean chronic people who'd been on welfare, who, have been just accepting the dole of the state.
Yes.
We put them through our symposium with our instructors for 3 months. Now, that was only 10 people. The average dropout of any class in the state of New Mexico for helping what we call human resources here in Georgia is 50%. We had only one lady drop out of the course, and she dropped out because she didn't have a babysitter, couldn't afford one, and the state wasn't helping her along those lines. But she's seen that every one of her children has taken Symposium. But 9 out of those 10 went out and got their own jobs and have been working for 9 months.
Why are you successful when other agencies or units are not?
Well, maybe it's because I just don't believe in failure. I don't believe that a man has to fail. Once you understand how to go about being successful, but you do have to learn how to do it.
Would you describe yourself as an incurable optimist?
Well, I think you might say that, but I also see reality where reality is. I cannot ignore the truth of life and things, But it's like everything. Where are you taught to learn how to live in school all the time?
You're not, are you?
Okay, you're not. And you see, that's what we're getting to, that you've got to be taught. I can tell you, Don, if you're a nervous person, you go home and you quit being nervous now. You be sure, and you just don't let things bother you, Don. But if I don't teach you how to do it, how are you going to do it, Don?
Well, you can't.
And that's what life is all about. We have to be taught how to live. It's a shame that we have to wait to have a person in trouble to begin to help them and teach them.
We want you to teach us about the social, physical, and mental dimension, the 3 other items on your list when we come
Don.
back
Okay, Don.
with Dr. Rutilio Romero.